hand tallying a will or marking on a contract or some other document delightful to me in its small details, but find nothing of real historical significance. And so it was when I first went to the archives at Canterbury Cathedral. Inordinately proud of my easily obtained researcher's ID card, I called forth from the deeps the catalogue of collector Isaac Barrow's Curiosities, sundry ecclesiastical records of witch accusations, and random wills and deeds in Latin so that I could barely understand them. It was fun, but it didn't add up to much. Next, I found in the Wiltshire and Swindon History Centre the papers of Aubrey's great friend Sir James Long of Draycott Cerne. Among them, this was the mistake, were 3 letters from Lady Margaret Long. Those letters should not have been there. There's no relation between Sir James Long and Lady Margaret's husband, Sir Arthur Long. But the letters were charming enough that her name lodged inside my brain. Then, in Somerset, spying Lady Margaret's name in the catalogue, I requested all the Long materials. And there, buried in an archive hardly anyone had looked at, were the 2 tales that follow. One of Lady Margaret Long herself, and contained inside that one of her companion and amanuensis, Joan Palmer. They tell it better than I, and so ends my preface. Anne Fleming, Vancouver.
The Memoir of Lady Margaret Long, daughter of Sir Horace Grimes and Elizabeth Locke. In 1590, my dear mother's time came at the height of a thunderstorm in midsummer. With a very clap of thunder was I born at 7 o'clock in the evening, a lucky hour, near Falking in Sussex. I was predicted a son, but born a daughter, beloved of both my parents, their first and only child, my father having already 6 children, all daughters of his first wife. My mother, a great believer in the education of women, made certain to provide for my learning, first instructing me herself, then securing for me a tutor, the poet and astronomer Robert Sorrow. In Sorrow's company did my knowledge increase and my curiosity grow. He found me, not to state the case o'er its merits, an apt pupil, diligent of study and acute of understanding. My interests early ran every which way, falling from one thing to another, but in natural philosophy and astronomy I maintained a deep curiosity. My father's contemporaries twitted him that he made me unmarriageable by indulging my learning and experiments, but my mother and I never feared for my prospects. We, as so often was the case, proved right. I did not lack for suitors, spurning 2 already by the time I had 20 years of my age, when I met Sir Arthur Long. He had then 35 years of his age, a bountiful man in every aspect, generous, loud in laughter, with a ready wit. We married 2 years later, and I removed my laboratory from my father's house in Sussex to my husband's in Somerset, where we continued very happy until the stillbirth of our first child, a boy, and the death, after a brief 4 days of life, a year later, of our daughter, which threw us very low in spirit, so for a time we could scarce rise from our beds. God's will is God's will, however, or so we are told, and we swallowed our grief and rose again to live our lives. I had a great fondness for my nieces, the daughters of my sister, Anne, who married Sir William Tilden of Wormshill, Kent, and drew them to me for distraction and cheer. They had been used to come visit me at my father's house, where we would read and wander and discourse and play music and watch the stars. Now I brought them to us at Longwood, near Chew Magna. We were, from the first, a merry company. My husband loved the house to be lively and full of life, and so my nieces made it. With them came a maid, more companion to them than servant, having by the goodness of my sister shared their schoolroom, where she had proved especially adept at ciphering. It fell out that while my nieces and their schoolroom companion were dilettescent with me, my maid ran off with a nonconformist. I pressed my nieces. Would they consent to have Joan? For that was